Hey guys, and welcome to Get a Life podcast Kunai. Today we are joined by the wonderful Kevin
What's up, guys?
and the awesome Joe.
Benvenido.
Joe, I don't know what that is, but I'm not even going to question it.
It means welcome. I'm in a good mood today.
In which language?
In Italian.
I could not recognize Italian because of the accent. Sorry, just
Yeah,
yeah.
It's the attempt at like an American just trying to say Italian words.
what? Just because of that explanation, I'll take it.
Well, I always thought, Joe, you were Italian, but anyway, that's besides the point. Today we are watching the anime Love, Chunibyo and Other Delusions. That's what we're covering today, Kevin.
All right. So, for you new folks, Life Podcast Kunai is a monthly anime discussion podcast under the Get a Life group. And due to the nature of our discussions here, unfortunately, we cannot avoid spoilers of the show to be discussed. So for those shows that are based off of an existing piece of work, whether it's a manga, a light novel, or some other media form, we aren't covering the source material for those, just the anime itself. We can be found on Stitcher, iTunes Store, and Google Play. And if you'd like to recommend a show for us to watch and make an episode of on Kunai, please send us your suggestions on Twitter at GalpKunai, GalpKunai, or by leaving us a review for your chance to win a 3-month subscription to Crunchyroll Premium. If you want to watch this anime and keep up to date with what we watch here on Kunai, you can support us by signing up for a 14-day free trial of Crunchyroll Premium for everything anime at crunchyroll.com/kunai. You can also support us by checking out our lootcrate.com/kunai link. Additionally, you can get 10% off if you apply kunai at checkout.
We were supposed to cover a certain anime afterwards, but this is on another level. So, Love, Chunibyo and Other Delusions, known in Japan as Chunibyo Demo Koi ga Shitai, is a 2012 anime series produced by Kyoto Animation. And if you guys don't know who Kyoto Animation are, shame on you. Kyoto Animation...
Then what's wrong with
Exactly.
Wrong with you,
what's wrong with you, right? Because...
Filthy casuals.
Filthy casual, exactly. Because Kyoto Animation has created such awesome anime, like Chaos.
like
There's only two anime that I know that Kyoto Animation do, and they do it really well. K-On! And Free.
It's the only shows he can acknowledge because they're the only shows he thinks about.
They're the only shows, especially Free. I'm really excited for Free Season 3. I'm stuttering just thinking about it. It's just so good.
Yes.
Season 3 has been announced, and
Thinking of all those abs, aren't you, Bish?
I'm thinking about all those Nagisa. What if Nagisa's not in it? That would fuck me over. I'm like, fuck.
And
no.
once again, I'm kind of like the outcast in this scenario because everyone here absolutely loves Free. I haven't seen it at all. In my life.
You need to watch it. You're not a part of Kunai until you've seen Free.
Holy shit. Damn.
That's it.
Wow. Okay,
So I've been told.
roasting aside here, guys. We have an episode to cover.
Yeah, exactly. So, funny enough, this is based off a light novel, as these shows tend to be. From what I know, Kyoto Animation only covers light novels. They don't tend to do original animations. And before the animation that we're going to be watching, Kyoto Animation released a YouTube series with the same name, and it was 6-minute shorts introducing us to the characters, etc. But we're not talking about that. We're going to talk about the anime. So it aired in 2012. This is the first season, and it's 12 episodes. Basically, it's about these high schoolers that deal with Chunibyo syndrome, which is how do you explain
Basically,
it?
Angsty teenager phase.
It's
think of that basically.
The cringy moments in your teenage years.
From what I know, it's basically growing up while maintaining that childlike imagination.
Exactly.
And
so
acting upon it.
That's what it is, and it's about these kids that are going through high school and dealing with that and trying to break away from that. There's also a love story within it, but we'll talk about that further on. I really want to get into first impressions, guys.
Okay, so my experience with this show actually didn't begin with season 1. It began with season 2.
What the fuck? Dude, what?
Okay.
Okay.
Let me explain. Okay, so a friend of mine in high school, shout out to him, he recommended this show to me called Love, Chunibyo and Other Delusions. It looked I liked the art style. I like the character design, so I'm sure, I'll give it a shot. And so the funny story is that I didn't really know. I didn't know the full name at the time, so I ended up starting with the second season before watching the first season.
Did you ever finish the second season?
I only watched 1 or 2 episodes because around that time I found out that I was watching the second season. But I mean so I kind of do. I'm kind of familiar with the I'm kind of familiar with Rikka and Yuuta. Like I've seen them before. So like, but if since it's been so long since I've seen that second season, I felt like the first season was still kind of fresh to me. So I went into it. Like I saw the first few episodes. I was formally introduced to them this time, and I like it. Like I really, there's something about it, like something very like natural about the when we're introduced to Yuuta, introduced to Rikka, like these other characters like Makoto, and like they kind of interact with each other, and like it's also natural. It's like, because the anime usually exaggerates a lot, and although the show has a lot of exaggerations, like a lot of it's still felt natural, especially at the beginning. So it left a good like impression on me for the rest of the show.
Could you give an example of that actually? Because
like when
I don't know if I agree.
It's like when like Yuuta and Rikka were like always interacting. Like when it's like when like Rikka was like acting like all Chunibyo. It's like Yuuta would come in to like give like a subtle knock on the head.
That's exactly it though. Because I always felt that, like, you know, for the first 2 episodes, I was like, damn, this is like, if you could make an anime about cringing, this is your show. Because, like, I just remember Yuuta, like, cringing to death every time that Rikka would try to approach him, right? And in fact, I remember during the first 2 episodes, he kind of tries to run away from her.
Right, but I mean, the exaggerations are presented there. Like, I saw them in the beginning. I'm not saying they're not existent. I'm just saying, like, there were also a lot of moments where, like, more than I've seen, like, in a lot of other shows, like, there were instances where, like, the interactions just felt natural. It's like something that I could see. It's like situations where like I'd see people in real life interacting in this way. Like, yeah, what I'm saying. So like, yeah, like those are basically my impressions. I liked it. It was a good introduction, and like it definitely set a good tone for me for the rest of the show.
All right, Kevin, I'm really interested to know your first impressions, right? Because this was a show that I decided, okay, we're gonna watch on the fly. It was you didn't have enough time.
It was
exactly
a substitute. Yeah. For a show that shall not be named, because but, you know, dear God,
we already mentioned it in Kaiji. So
no,
what if I bleep that in the Kaiji episode? No one will know.
Well, I mean, anyway, I mentioned it now, so I mean, we'll see how that goes.
I'll bleep it again, man. Just So what did you think, Kevin? Because you had limited time on it.
Unlike Joe, I did not have much experience at all. I did have some experience with it, I guess, in the sense that I saw some fan art, because you know, Chunibyo has a lot of fan art, especially on any Twitter.
It has a lot of memes as well.
It has a lot of memes, yeah, because it is a very memeable anime, right? But other than just what I saw in passing on my timeline, I did not read the light novels. I didn't watch the web series at all. So I really came into this blind, right? And, well, it's really weird as a show, right? As it's meant to be. And because of that, right? Because it focuses on Chunibyo, right? And like, for those of you who don't know, maybe we didn't define Chunibyo adequately in the beginning. It's not some normal, weird teen angsty phase that you have in middle school, right? But like, this is like that taken to the extreme. So just think of someone in cosplay, but like they live out their cosplay 24/7. This is what Chunibyo is, right? And because it's so extreme, I found it really funny and stuff, but I could not really relate to it in the first few episodes, right? Because, yeah, we all had our little weird phases in middle school, right? But nothing to this degree. So I was like, I don't know, I'm not feeling a connection quite yet. I'll stay on, all right? Because it's interesting, it's well animated, the characters are dynamic and stuff, right? And I'll just see where this rabbit hole leads, right? So I was really uncertain. It could really go either way for me in the first episode.
To emphasize on that point, like I do understand how like what you mean by that, because they don't really give you much context at the beginning. It's really just like, oh, there are these people who are Chunibyo, and
they throw you right into the thick of the action,
like,
right?
There's really no like exposition or context to it. It's just there, and like so I can see how that would like set it like a different tone for you.
Honestly, though, before we get into that, I wanted to ask you guys. I wasn't really able to relate all that much to Chunibyo, because my quote-unquote Chunibyo back in middle school was, well, me, like, secretly watching anime and reading manga, right? So I just want to ask you guys, like, do you have a phase like this? Could you guys relate to this show when you guys first started it, or?
Yeah, I think I can. When I just want to give a backstory of how I kind of got into the show before I giving an answer to that. When I got into the show, it was a certain time of my life. You know, I watched it simulcasted.
So was this a friend's recommendation, or did you get into this yourself?
I was just casually looking through. I didn't have any anime to watch, new anime. I just finished Heneko. I just finished Heneko, and I was like, okay,
The memories.
I watched Hagenai, I watched Heneko and whatever, and I was like, this is 2012, and I'm like, oh, shit, man, I'm relatively new to anime. What can I watch? So I went on some forums, just some weird random forums. It's not My Anime Planet or My Anime Planet. Oh my god, they should merge. Anyway, so it wasn't Anime Planet or My Anime List or anything like that. It was just some weird forum. So I went on it, and then someone recommended this anime. They said, hey, look, this is a new simulcast. You guys should go and watch it. I came in around the time episode 5 was simulcasting. So I watched it from the beginning, and I started to binge. But it was... it hooked me in from the first episode. I think for me, I did relate to it a lot. I did relate to it because there was those cringy moments. I had those cringy moments. I was a Chunibyo. Like, I'll be real with you. Like, when I started...
Okay, Dark Flame Master.
Dark Flame Master. That was me. I was that kid. I literally, I was that kid. So I really felt such an emotional connection to the anime from the beginning. And I think that helped me continue and such. And I believe I was watching this anime with a friend. And it wasn't Daniil. Big shout out to this guy called Kevin. My man Kevin, he knows who he's talking about. He knows who he is.
Not this one.
Not Kevin from Kunai, but Kevin, he knows who he is. Really awesome guy. Thank you for all your help and support over the years. But yeah, so I was watching the anime with Kevin at the time, and it was just really good, and I really loved it. And it like I said, it got me hooked, and because I was a Chunibyo, like, for the most part, and I think I didn't really get out of it until end of high school, really late into the game. So I felt the pain that Yuuta was feeling. I felt the cringe as he was cringing. You know, that's me.
Yeah. Now that you bring it up, like, I mean, even though I couldn't relate exactly, because of how extreme the Chunibyo was, I could definitely feel for all the cringy moments, right? When you look back at yourself in your middle/high school years, and you're like, "Fuck, how did I have any friends back then with all the weird obsessions I had?"
For me, it's like listening back to the old episodes of the original Get Life podcast. It's like, fuck, man, that's so. I can't handle it. Like, every time I listen to those, I feel exactly like Yuuta. Where how he's rolling on the floor and he's like, no. It's like it's the same feeling. So I really related to him in that sense, at least from the first episode. And that relation, the fact that I related to him, got me hooked into the anime, which I'm really happy about.
I wouldn't exactly say that I was a Chunibyo. I was Chunibyo back then. I would say it was more like, because I've developed, well, I mean, I guess you could say it's been something that's I've kind of been developing for like a long time, like for a few years. I've gone into like developing stories. It's like there's something about just writing stories, and it's like conceptualizing them and thinking of like these like creative like story points that to kind of weave into like a huge plot. Like, it's something
so basically, Joe wrote fanfics and delusions. Oh.
Well, I mean, not like
Director of fanfics, man.
I mean, not like fanfics, like my own like creative works, like nothing like based off of anything. It's more like I just kind of like, what if I could just create my own story? Like although like I don't really write much, I usually just daydream a lot, just like thinking about these different stories. But anyway, like when I was younger, I would often put myself in those stories, like as like the big hero, and like I would basically act out like the stories in my head, and like I would usually place myself in like video game universes that I've already known, like Nintendo universe and such, and like I would imagine myself just like going through those universes and just like working alongside to the main protagonist to destroy the antagonists. And
okay.
And so, like, even though it wasn't like something that people saw on the outside, it's something that really happened in my mind a lot. Just like putting myself at the center stage. So,
all right. Okay.
So it's like so I guess you could say it's like Chunibyo in a different sense. I think that lasted until around the end of high school as well. I mean, although like even now, like I guess you could say even now I still kind of like putting myself in the center of these stories, but that's usually instead of just like imagining myself in these stories, I use it as more of like a tool to help me like think of ideas to put in the stories, so that like it kind of helps me develop characters and like plot points. yeah, that's basically it.
All right, Bish, we're so sorry here. I know that you guys, well, you wanted to talk first, right? But you kind of got shafted. So I want to find out, what were your first impressions when you watched the show way back in 2012? And like, has it changed at all compared to when you rewatched for Kunai?
I'll be honest with you. I'll start with my first impressions, right? When I first watched it, as I mentioned before, there was this, I related to it a lot. But not only that, I watch it and it feels very, very human. Like, it starts off, it's very human things, human emotions that we go through. It's relatable, as I mentioned. So that's what hooked me in. The second time watching it for Kunai, it's been such a long time since 2012. It's been more than 5 years. So I'm watching it. I can't even remember anything about the anime, and it's just fresh. When I'm watching it, it's just fresh, and it feels, I don't know, it feels like wearing a fresh pair of pajamas when your bed sheets are just made. Do you see what I mean? Like, that's what it feels like.
I can relate.
Like, that's
Not really, but
that's the feeling.
Interesting analogy.
It's like wearing your new Christmas pajamas the day before Christmas. And running downstairs and opening your Christmas presents. That's how I felt. It's very odd, actually, but I did feel like that. And especially when watching it the first time, I do remember certain elements of the anime. I was watching certain parts of the anime while outside, so I was experiencing the scenes of the anime as I'm walking in my own world, right, in my own scenes. Like, when I'm walking, there was one point I was used to do a lot of running back in the day, and I did a lot of exercise, and I was watching the anime to kind of pass the time, and it was dark, and there was a moment when it was dark in the anime, and there were moments within the anime that made me feel warm when I didn't need a coat, right? It was freezing outside. England's very freezing, right? It was freezing.
Sorry.
Well, not compared to Canada, but you know what I mean. It does get quite cold. It's
yeah.
But I was running outside and I wasn't wearing a jacket. But there was certain moments where I felt the anime warmed me up, and it's still like that. Even today, I would just rewatching.
So the magic is still there.
The magic is still alive. The fire is still burning. It still heats me up, and it's just beautiful. That's what I thought about it then, and I think about it now in the same way. Although my opinions have slightly changed, because when rewatching it, there were some circumstances in my life that kind of clicked with this anime, and I thought, shit, man, my opinions have changed on certain characters since I originally watched it, and I relate to other characters more than others.
Okay.
Could you say that in a way it felt like it was meant to be watched twice?
Exactly, especially for me, it felt like fate, because when I was originally watching it, I was dealing with this Chunibyo thing, right? And it would kind of help me get out of it. And I know it's a bit weird for me to say that, but it did kind of help me get out of it, and it gave me confidence watching this anime. And then now rewatching it, it's put a lot of my life into perspective. I know we don't get personal on Kunai, but it as an anime, it just made sense to me, to my life. And it's a very personal thing, and I think anime can be a very personal thing when it's done correctly. And this is the example in question. I'm really interested for you guys. I really want to know your favorite moments and episodes of this anime. And I want to start with Kevin, and I have a feeling it's gonna be the beach episode. Is that right?
No, actually.
Oh, is it not?
Well, hang on. If I recall, sorry, it's just I don't remember the beach episode too well, but that was in the first 6 episodes, wasn't it?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, I'll be honest, I don't have a whole lot to say about favorite moments in episodes. This doesn't mean there weren't any, alright? I did note, though, that from the get-go, from episode 2, alright, with, the first battle between Toka, the bigger sister, or the priestess, as she calls her, and Rikka, I noted that it was super well animated, alright? So that's not necessarily a favorite moment, but that was just the beginning of the battles, and I find that the battles deserve a shout out on their own because they're just so well done, right? From
I agree.
Over the top animations and stuff. Every battle, regardless of what episode it's in, is a highlight for me because it's just so well done, right? And it kind of reflects the imagination of Rikka and the characters, right? It's done really well. Other than that, I have to admit, and I think you guys will agree with me here, that my favorite episodes in this series are towards the end, not so much towards the beginning. It was kind of a slow start for me. episode 7 for me was pivotal because finally I was like, yes, we're getting into some juicy stuff, right? Because in episode 7, if I recall correctly, is when they actually go to visit Rikka's grandparents, right? With Toka and everyone else, right? So finally, it progresses from this introduction arc where you're getting to meet all these new characters to actually fleshing out the characters, the main characters of this show, all right? And the 2 other episodes I think deserve a mention are episode 11 and 12, right? Because they're 11 and 12 are basically 2 sides of the same coin, right? Because 11 focuses a lot on her finally getting out of her Chunibyo phase, and 12 is kind of like, oh shit, maybe I went a bit too far, right?
In a way, it's like a two-parter because like it's established in episode 11 and then it's like concluded in episode 12.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you'll remember, at the end of episode 11 and 12, there's always the to be continued, right? Whereas at the beginning there wasn't so much that. It was more like a slice of life, right? So 11 and 12 really speak to me because just the way that the characters are handled, specifically, I would say Rikka and Yuuta, it's really well done, right? Because there's a lot of back and forth between how their characters change from, initially going from one extreme, rejecting Chunibyo entirely and forgetting about all that, trying to become quote-unquote normal high schoolers, right? To kind of finding this nice middle ground between the 2 extremes of, it's part of me. I shouldn't be ashamed of it, right? So those 2 episodes, I think, are just objectively the best in the series. How about you guys?
Yeah, I'll go on this one. I think my favorite episode, it's not the swimsuit episode. Like,
why do we always bring up the swimsuit episode?
Because I have to. This is Kunai. We have to bring up swimsuit episodes. That's just part of life.
You know what, Bish, you're telling us that it's not your favorite episode, but I think that
Bish, most of them suck though.
Secretly my favorite episode. No, one of my favorite episodes actually was the first episode. The first episode was one of my favorites. The reason is because you're first introduced to the whole fighting, right? And you're introduced to Rikka, and you know how she like escapes from her room, and the way he just grabs her feet as she comes down the stairs, down the rope, and it's like, whoa, this guy has some really small hands. First of all, secondly, it's so delicate, like the way her feet touch that the windowsill.
I love how this is what Bish focuses on.
No, it's these small details. Like I don't have a foot fetish, but it's like,
guys, what Bish is actually trying to say right now is that he wants you to know that he has a foot fetish.
I don't.
All right.
I don't.
So, Joe, I think that we should both take action and declare Bish director of foot fetishes because
Jeez, no,
he just came out today.
You can't do that to me. But it's those small details like that. It's also the fact that, the way that she walks and the way that the characters interact with each other within that first episode.
The way that the right foot goes in front of the left foot.
Shut up, Joe.
Just always going back to the feet, huh?
Fuck you guys, man. Fuck you guys. The interactions and the I think even the battle, if I'm not mistaken, there was the battle between Rikka and her sister.
No, that was episode 2.
Okay.
Episode 2.
Well, episode 2...
He was so captivated by the feet, he completely forgot what happened in that episode. He just, in his notes, in his
we'll
episode
have a
notes.
Nice long talk with Bish about it later, but for now,
afterwards. We'll have a monthly meeting about the foot fetish, and it's going to be an intervention, right? But yeah, regardless, that the first fight, that was really good. Like, I was so confused at it by first when I was originally watching it, because I was like, she has a ladle. How the fuck did a ladle become that? And then I realized this is Rikka's imagination. And the way that it's showing the difference, like, you're getting into the imagination and then you're seeing what's actually
happening. Yeah,
it's quite funny, but the same way it's done in such a good way. And it grounds the anime in realism, and it's like, damn, that's what she thinks, and she has it just shows how vast her imagination is. That that
the directing for those scenes was top notch.
It is, yeah, and that's why, especially the first fight scene was one of my favorites, one of my favorite moments. Another one of my favorite moments was Dekomori. Not when she was introduced. It was the moment when Dekomori was, the intervention of Dekomori, when Yuuta was telling Dekomori, You need to stop this foot fetish of your. No, I'm joking.
Oh my god, no.
I'm sorry. But it was
You're
during the
one who wants to get
intervention
away
scene.
from it. You're the one that's just bringing us back.
You
down
know,
to Earth.
you got to laugh at yourself, right? You got to laugh at yourself. You got to meme yourself.
Oh, that's the
like,
thing, Joe. He doesn't want to get away from it. He's desperately trying to bring it back to them, secretly.
That intervention, when he's like, nothing is real, and I was like, what the fuck? It's.
Oh yeah, at the end. Okay, no, you
At the
confused
end.
me because yeah.
And it was that intervention, and then the next
Yeah.
day she's wearing her hair as normal, but
That was in episode 11, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I got a comment. Sorry to interrupt, but
sure.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but because you brought up the whole juxtaposition between their imaginations and what's actually going on, right? I got a comment on that one scene because I think that is actually the best fight scene out of all of them, and I'll explain why, okay? Because it is during that scene that I noticed that the juxtaposition perhaps meant something a little bit deeper than I initially thought. Because in the first few episodes, right, for most of the season, the juxtapositions I think are just there for comedic purposes, right? Just you're seeing this one exaggerated imagination of what Takamori and Rikka are dreaming up of, and what's actually going on, right? So it's really funny. But in that scene, it's not just used for comedic effect. It's actually kind of showing you the contrast between reality and the reality that Takamori and Rikka have created for themselves, right? This world of lies, right? So just showing the difference between what Takamori thinks she's doing, right, versus what she's actually attacking Yuuta with is it's kind of pitiful, really, right? Because it shows you how frail their little Chunibyo is, right? And that it kind of drives a point home that Yuta's trying to make, that, what? Hey, yeah, okay, you can imagine all you want, but at the end of the day, none of that is real, right? Reality is what matters here.
Exactly. One of my last favorite moment was when they're trying to set up the club. It kind of reminded me of Haganai only because of the club setting. Nothing else kind of reminds me of Haganai in that sense. But when they go
of Yamada-kun.
One of my favorite moments within that episode was when Rika's like, "Oh, I have this spirit within me of this British girl who was alive in the Victorian times. Her name was Catherine or something like that."
Yes, Catherine.
And then
And the fucking teacher shuts her down.
and the way the teacher shuts her down kills me, man. It kills me inside. And just like
she goes along with it. And
she goes
fucks
along
her
with
up.
it, and she fucks her up, and she fucks her over like that. And I'm like, shit, man. This teacher, she is a boss. Like, she thought about it out. Like, if I ever had a teacher like that, and I did have teachers like that, right? But if I ever had a teacher do that to me, I would have been like, touche, man, touche, GG.
In that moment, I was like, get wrecked.
That is a get wrecked moment, and I just wanted to bring up because it just got me laughing. There was a point where I was laughing so hard, I almost pissed myself. Like, it was that funny. Was that funny? Joe, I'm really interested to know your favorite moments and episodes within this anime.
Okay, so the show as a whole was good fun, and I don't really mean to go too deep into the plot, like with our favorite moments, but like, to me, the show wasn't about like these comedic moments, these like the introduction of these different characters, like the discord between Takamori and Nibatani. Like, it was Rikka and Yuta's story.
If you ask me honestly, Chunibyo is really it's a tragedy wearing the mask of a lighthearted comedy.
It is,
right?
because it has so many like dark implications. Like, it goes really deep into like the psychology of being Chunibyo, and that's something that
I'd say more so the second half though.
Yeah, the second
second
half, like that's like the second half is without a doubt my favorite, because like the first half it felt like that like slice of life like comedy, but when it got to the second half, like that's when the story started picking up and we got a lot more exposition than we did previously.
Do you think that they did that on purpose? Like, do you think it was structured in a way to draw people in, to make them think, hey, look, this is the slice of life, comedy, romantic comedy shit, and then just hit hard with the drama?
To answer your question, I want to say that maybe the first half was more of like a giant hook to get you into it, but the second half was when the show like truly started and ended. like I'd say like those moments, like the moments of like facing reality, like compared to being Chunibyo, like finding the middle ground, and like those moments with Yuuta and Rikka especially, like no, not especially, specifically, like those moments define the show for me. Those are without a doubt my favorite moments throughout the entire show. Just seeing them together, just interacting, and like we're like as we learn more about like Rikka's past, Yuta's past, and like just seeing everything come together, like it made, like, let's just say like my eyes watered like twice during the second half. Like I was on the verge of tears.
What moment specifically though? I'd like to know.
Just no like specific moments. It's just like when you see like Yuuta.
Is there
and
not
Rikka,
like any particular scenes that like
nothing in
come
particular.
to mind,
just,
or
well, I mean, for example, when like Rikka is about to fall off the school building, and then Yuuta comes and helps her, and like for the rest of the episode, it's just them like holding each other close. Like that moment like was beautiful.
Was it the episode where they hugged for the first time?
yeah, it was that
It
one.
was the episode because like just seeing her cry after like almost falling off, like just being with Yuuta, and then Yuuta just holding her close, like it is heart-wrenching. Like the show, I have to say, the show did a very good job at capturing the moments. It's like when like during like at the times where the show was meant to get serious, they hit it out of the park.
I agree there. This show really shines when it fully exploits the development of its characters. But what you say, Joe, I actually think it's a perfect segue for us into the story, all right? Because the story in this show it's one of a kind, right? And like you said, the tragic moments, right, with the character interactions between Yuuta and Rikka, they're really the bread and butter of this series, right? Honestly, it's why I would probably recommend this for people. Like those last two episodes alone make this show worth a watch, right? But as you said, those episodes define the show. But I don't think that you can just consider those episodes, right? Because
it's just those were my favorite moments. It's just with like the story alone, like during the entire plot, I couldn't think about anybody other than Rikka and Yuuta. It's like all these other characters had a good role in it, and Makoto was just the common shoe of the show, like unfortunately. But like you had all these different characters that were interesting, but like in the end, the show was the story of Yuuta, the story of Rikka.
Yeah, absolutely. But then I want to know everyone's thoughts actually on the first half of the show, all right? Because we've kind of been glossing over it, right? And I think we should get into it because, just because, yeah, we say that the show focuses on Yuuta and Rikka, right? They're pivotal to the way the story develops. But I feel that the first half of the arc, which is like your standard introduction arc, was less well done in terms of pacing, just because there was little character development in those first few episodes. I want to know if you guys feel the same way. Like, did you feel that the show had some pacing issues in terms of the story and stuff, or?
Let's just say, like, I didn't. I mean, although I loved the second half to death, like I feel like the second half redeemed the show in a lot of ways. I didn't like how it was basically like half of just nothing but like common slice of life stuff, and then having like a second half of nothing but exposition.
Yeah, if you ask me, actually, the first half and the second half are so different that I'd kind of label them under separate genres, right? Because if you look at the first half, it's lots of slice of life elements to it, right? There's no concurrent story arcs. Yeah, exactly. There's this continuity between episodes, right? And there's some actual focus on the characters' pasts and their relations with each other, right? So the first half, if you just watch the first 6 episodes, right, you'd have been like, oh yeah, this is just some sort of like cutesy moe comedy show, but the second half reveals a whole different nature to it, right? And I'm just disappointed that they weren't able to even it out across the whole season. For me, it felt like there was too much of a rupture at episode 6 when they transitioned between these two phases.
Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the transition didn't feel natural. It's like it wasn't like easing our way. It really didn't. Like, it kind of like it brought us like it was like we were on a boat to like, and then like halfway like through the journey we got onto another boat with completely different services, and then we got to the port.
Personally, for me,
I'm sorry, Bish. But it's similar to how Haganai season 2 played out. It's like at the end where like it suddenly got very serious. It's like I didn't hate it, but it just felt unnatural.
Could have been done better.
Yes, it could have been done much better. It's like that's what it's something similar with with like the show with Chunibyo. Like, I didn't like how it just went from like 6 episodes of like, oh, happy comedy, oh, Chunibyo, funny stuff, to like I running out of tissues, please get me some more.
Personally, for me, I do agree with the pacing issues, but at the same time, I can understand why they are there. Like, I'm not here to make excuses, but at the same time, I feel that when I was watching the first 6 episodes, it kind of felt like Heneko. Do you see what I mean? There was a lot of the same character tropes.
It really did.
Character designs were very similar. You know, Yuuta did remind Heneko, Hentai Prince and the Stony Cat.
Oh,
our very first episode.
The very first episode of Kunai, and it felt the same because, you know, you had the socially awkward character who didn't like talking to other people. You had the one character who has not a special ability, but the one character who approaches the hermit character. You have the hermit character's sister, who is very aggressive, and then you have the other side characters as well, and you also have a Ponta. You know, Makoto is Ponta, effectively. That's at least from what I've seen, right? Like,
there's also the gut-wrenching ending. Just, oh my god. Yo, I was not ready for that fucking kick in the gut. Oh.
Me neither, man. Me neither. But it was specifically with that first 6 episodes, I think the reason that they've done that was because the reason it's like that and the reason that there is this kind of break and this odd transition is because they've written themselves into that. Do you see what I mean? Because they needed.
It is an adaptation, sure, but
it's not just that. It's not the fact that it is that. It's like it's the fact that they introduced so many characters in such a short period of time. They had to introduce them because if you don't introduce them, you're not going to progress the story. But I feel at the same time it could have worked well with either introducing those characters within the short series prior to this, and they tried to do this. But, you know, obviously no one is going to watch the short series alongside the anime. That's just fair enough. But they didn't need to redo that again if they've already done that within the short series. Like, they just need to build upon it, use that short series as a tool to move forward, like they did with Free. Do you see what I mean? Because of the fact that there were just multiple characters. There's more than 8 characters that you really don't care about for the most part because the story is about Yuuta and Rikka. But they have to give them those kind of story elements because it doesn't push forward without it. If you don't know about Dekomori, you don't get Dekomori's demise and the end of Dekomori. Do you see what I mean?
I gotta say something, though. I have to agree but disagree here because I don't think that the problem is so much they introduced too many characters too quickly in the first half and they didn't do it properly. It's more so that, okay, I don't really care if you introduce new characters, but firstly, make sure that you introduce those characters so that they're not just two-dimensional for 3/4 of the show, right? Give us a reason to care about them. And secondly, while you're introducing your side characters, make sure that your main characters are also being developed. So you're not putting the pause button on their development all of a sudden, right? Because
and make sure you don't turn like a character that you thought was a bro at the beginning into another shoe.
I mean, you're talking about Ibutani, right?
He was so. I loved him at the beginning. Like, he felt like such a bro. Like, he was like the Kaito of that show. If Vish would know what I mean.
I get what you mean.
I'm talking about Makoto Ishiki. Yeah, like he felt like a bro at the beginning, but like after his like bit of exposition and then like getting his hair shaved off, he became the comic relief who was there to kind of like beat up.
Yeah, I mean, those characters, I mean, I eventually grew to like them, but in the first 6 episodes, I found that like they're kind of being detrimental in a way to the development of the main characters, because while you're laughing out at the jokes that these new characters bring in, like Nibutani actually being very mean, or kind of like teasing and stuff and all
I
that,
didn't
right?
really like that.
Yeah, I don't like that either, but I mean, we'll get into that in characters. But my problem was that I didn't feel that Yuuta and Rikka changed much during the first episodes themselves, because they were focusing so much on these new side characters, right? So they're just stagnating all the way throughout the first arc, in my opinion, right? And I think that they could have done it a lot better, right? Everyone was kind of two-dimensional for me in that first arc, so I really had no motivation to care about a lot of these characters, right? And I just find that because of this slow first arc, by the time that you bring up the drama, right, and the tragedies and stuff in the second arc, and specifically in the last few episodes, you don't really care for Rikka and Yuuta as much as you could, because their development in the first 6 episodes wasn't as good or as in-depth as it could have been, right?
I agree with that, but at the same time, I do want to mention that it's just an addition to your point when you talk about this transition. There's some episodes that I feel that don't need to be there within this anime, right? Do you understand what I mean? Like the whole summer episode and the swims, like that did.
Summer episode, you talking about the beach one?
The beach episode, yes.
I disagree.
Really?
Was that not episode 7? Was that not episode 7? Or am I thinking when they go to the grandparents' house? Is that not it?
It is it, but I mean at the same time, it's part of it. For
I
me.
completely disagree then. Okay, but continue.
No, it's just for me. It's under the guise of like, hey, look at this. It's a swimsuit episode. They could have done it in another
that
way,
aspect
right? Do you see what I mean?
Feel forced.
I mean, it was also kind of. It felt really. It was like bittersweet to me, because that swimsuit scene was like followed the scene before it where like Rikka had like gone back to her hometown, and like she's kind of like meeting these people who she didn't want to meet again, and like she's just quiet the whole time. Like you can see that on her face. It's like when the scene starts and like when the scene ends.
Another thing that I wanted to mention, it's more so also episode 6. You know the episode where they were talking about the cutie list or whatever, like the cute girls list. You know what I'm talking about. That didn't need to be there, like him shaving his head and...
It didn't need to be there, but at the same time, without that though, I think Ishiki would have been pretty boring. Like, because that episode is when Ishiki comes out as the brosuke of the show, right? He's the main bro, and without that little development that he had, like he would have been if he stayed the way he was in the first 6 episodes, and he retained that persona during the last half of the anime, I wouldn't have taken note of him at all, right? I think that little development in that scene helped him become more likable in the second half of the show.
The whole girls vote felt like a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, exactly. That's the exact point I was gonna say.
Because it's like it was there just so we could have I almost called him Shu. We almost had like
not Shu.
Because of that book, because of that like girls vote notebook they had, that's the reason he shaved his head and became the character he is throughout the rest of the show.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of laughable, but I think
it's so
for
random.
Ishiki,
It
is lame, but I mean, it's sort of important for Ishiki. Ishiki himself, like his importance itself, can be debated, right? I don't think he's that important, other than for like comic relief, as you said. But I would like to go back to the beach episode here, because I think that I absolutely have to disagree with, because that is episode 7 when they go to the grandparents' house. And you cannot take out that episode, because that is when
now
the show
I didn't mean to
starts
take out the whole
into
episode, right? But I just mean the whole swim.
The beach moment?
The beach moment was
Okay.
unnecessary for me.
Okay.
Because it felt like, this is another romantic comedy, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, when they got into the whole grandparents thing and revealing that her, father passed and stuff, that was a revelation for the anime. It was a pivotal point within the anime, and that's, I think, when the anime started to change and become this more dramatic
For the
show.
better,
For
yeah.
the better, yes, I do agree with that. But it's just that beginning part, with the swimsuit. For me, it just felt very out of place, and it was just. And I really want to just go back also to the Makoto part as well, because I don't think I really said it properly. You can take that episode out and then just take out Makoto, and it wouldn't change the anime in the anime in any way. It does kind of give
Because at the end of the day, yeah, it is a show that focuses on Yuuta and Rikka, right? Makoto, Niutani. I mean, the only real side character, in my opinion, or side characters rather, that really matter are people directly associated with Rikka, like her family, her mother, her father, her sister in particular, right? And Dekomori.
To be honest, I think we could have used our time better if we didn't have Makoto in the show.
Exactly so. And
Then again, I will play the devil's advocate, guys. I will play the devil's advocate and say that without that, like those moments of comic relief, it would have been hella depressing. It would be really fucking depressing, right? So you do kind of need a little bit of humor.
yeah, but
right?
it was done in the wrong way.
It was done in the wrong way, actually. And allow me to bring up Heneko again, because I do think that this show, I don't know what it is, but it reminds me of Heneko in just so many ways, right? And unfortunately...
Well, it is kind of Heneko because, the parents are dead.
It's...
No offense.
Yeah.
And it's like the same sort of characters.
Spoilers.
Anyway, so whoa. Hey, if you guys haven't seen that Kunai episode, then fuck you. That's it.
Oh, wow. Shit. Savage. Okay. But yeah, unfortunately, one aspect in which it reminds me of Heneko is when watching Heneko, I remember saying that, unfortunately, it balanced the drama and the tragedy very poorly with a comedy, right? Because in episode 8, for example, right, there was this whole dramatic conflict between the two sisters, right? When Rikka goes back to the house where they once lived, right? And she's on the verge of tears and stuff, and they fight. And right after that dramatic moment, right, where you're fleshing out Rikka's character, you're getting more knowledge on her backstory, right, and her relation to her father, you suddenly cut to a beach party. Like, what the fuck? Like, who decided it was a good idea to cut from a super serious, somber scene to a beach party? These two conflicts, these two genres, just conflict way too much. I'm not saying that it can't be done well. In fact, comedy and tragedy and stuff, they're hard to do at the same time. But it's just a lot of the time, especially in the first half and even in the second half, they poorly manage this balance. There's too much juxtaposition, and they don't transition well between the two moods that they're trying to set, right? So it's not as funny as it could be because it's depressing, but it can't be as depressing as it could be because you're trying to suddenly force these comedic moments in between, Just about story, I actually think that there's one episode that I really, really want to bring up, okay? And that would be the ending. What did you guys think of the ending of the anime?
I know, I don't really want to talk too much about voice acting right now, but I have to say the voice acting did a very good job of making those moments feel a lot more, impactful. It's with the scene that Bish mentioned earlier with Dokomori and Yuta, when Yuta is basically saying no, this is real, you're not actually summoning weapons, it's you need to face reality. It's just hearing you not Yuta, Dokomori cry cry so much about it, and just kind of facing it. It hurt. It hurt. I actually felt the pain in my chest when I watched that. It's I'm why? Why do I have to suffer like this? Why does Kyoto Animation have to make me suffer?
God damn it, why do I have to watch this for kunai? Right? Yeah, but definitely the emotions are really well done. It was a moving last few moments. But I also want to more specifically ask you guys about what you thought about the resolution of the anime, right? Like, because evidently, like we said before, episode 11 is all about getting them to grow up, right? Face reality, right? To throw away these chunibyos. But then episode 12 was like kind of like reeling it back in to find this sort of balance, right? She kind of becomes chunibyo again in certain aspects, right? Did you guys that evoke an emotion or like any thoughts for you?
For me, it kind of reminded me of this whole Persona type thing. You know how in Persona 4, how they accept their inner selves. It's effectively that. Like, she's come to terms like, hey, look, this is who I am. I am a chunibyo, and it was endearing. It was endearing because it's like, it's not necessarily it's a nice ending, but it's not necessarily an ending people would expect. People would expect the ending to be, hey, look, I'm not going to be a chunibyo anymore, and all my friends are not chunibyos anymore, and we learned from this, and we've moved on. But in reality, that's not reality, right? And it kind of reflects reality in such a nice way, because reality, there is no happy endings. I know I'm sounding so fucking depressing here, but
no, but hang on. Are you implying here that it is not a happy ending, though, Bish?
No, I'm not implying that it's not a happy ending, but it's not the ending we expected. And I think it's not the ending that a majority of people expected. They don't expect her to go back to her chunibyo tendencies, right? They don't expect that.
Well, to be fair, I think I did, because I was like, realistically, season 2 is a thing. So
yeah, but
they're not
but
gonna...
imagine watching this without a season 2. It's this anime is this.
I mean, to be honest, if it were like if I was watching it before season 2 was announced, I would assume that she it wouldn't resolve. Like, I knew it wouldn't resolve in a way that I was expecting, but like at the same, I expected something like she was gonna find the middle ground.
I think that's what ends up happening, though.
Yeah, that is what ends up happening. Because in the end, like, they were attempting to fix what has already been done. So it was definitely going to be something that wasn't absolutely like reality. If you get what I mean. It's like I'm using context clues.
I just wanted to say, when I originally watched this, being it simulcasted and not knowing that there was going to be a season 2, I thought that this was just going to be it. I didn't think there was going to be a season 2. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Like, you kind of expect that once you're at episode 11, right? Because you're like, okay, so almost everything's good. She's making friends. Her relationships with like Yuuta and stuff is really good, and like she's come to terms with her sister, right? She's getting along with her mother finally, right? But there's this, you can sense there's a little bit of unease, right? Because she's not being herself.
But the main point that I was bringing in was not necessarily about episode 11. It was about episode 12, because first and foremost, this is a romantic anime. We can't deny that. It's a romance. And you expect in romances for the two characters to get together, and they did. So beyond that, especially for a second season, you don't think of how are they going to continue this romance on for a second season. So when I saw that they finally got together in the end, and that scene where he's pedaling and she's at the back and she's doing her moves to the policeman, right? And I was like, okay, that's just a nice romantic ending, and there's not going to be a second season from it. Like, you don't assume, right? It's not the ending that we wanted, or it's not the ending that we assumed from episode 11. We assumed that she was just going to be chill, and that's it. You could have ended the anime at episode 11, and it would have been a whole different story. Do you understand what I mean?
Beast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I think about it.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to bring it up because, definitely. The thing is, I can't even say that I wasn't expecting it to end the way it did, because I was. Okay. At the same time, I was hoping that it wouldn't. To be clear right now, I'm not saying the ending is bad. It's beautifully executed. I'm just saying that there's this little thing at the back of my head here where I'm kind of afraid that what if, she actually didn't find a middle ground and she's actually regressed back into her old Chunibyo, right? And the reason why I'm so passionate about this ending, right? And about, does she or does she not go back to her old Chunibyo self, is because I think that it's a key it's a defining moment in her character, right? Because at its core, right, the story of Chunibyo about Rikka is not saying that Chunibyo is bad, right? Chunibyo isn't necessarily bad. The problem with Rikka's Chunibyo, though, is that she was using it to deny reality, right? And that was preventing her from growing up, from coming to terms with the loss of her father, from seeing eye to eye with her sister and her mother, right? So the problem wasn't so much the Chunibyo in itself, it was what the Chunibyo was concealing, right? It was more of like, it was a vehicle for her sociopathic tendencies, right? To just deny reality and to just picture a world where everything was as she wanted it to be, a world where her father was still alive, you know? So I was hoping that she would be able to fully ditch it, right? But just I was going on Anime Planet, all right, and there's this one user that I think puts it quite well, right? Like I agree with his opinion 100%. And what he says, it's Firewalker, by the way, shout out to you. He says, I'm not quite on board. I'm not quite on board with the way they wound up. I applaud Yuuta trying to express his feelings and getting Rikka to embrace her own spark. But I wanted there to be a way to do it that was distinct from delusions. Can't there be magic in this world that is not linked to Dark Flame Master? Until they establish that higher reality, I feel that the story is a bit incomplete. And I kind of agree here,
so,
because
were you envisioning something along the lines of like she was a realist, but at the same time she also had that like Chunibyo personality?
I think that's what the way the anime ended, but it's just that because it's just the fact that she goes back, you know, the last scene is she goes back down the rope like in full Chunibyo attire, right? I was kind of afraid that she would go back to this absurd denying reality phase, right?
No, but I think she's not necessarily denying reality at that point. She's accepting what she is, as opposed like now she understands. Like for me, the way I see it is like she understands why she became Chunibyo to begin with, right? And now she accepts it. She's like, this is me. This is what I'm about. I'm just gonna be me. Because for the most part, bear in mind, for the most part, for like a couple of years, let's say 3 years, she's been like this, right? Since her father's passing, and how many ever years it is, right? And this is another thing that I really want to bring up in regards to the whole story and, you know, that story. I can tell you for a fact, no matter how many years passed, you're never going to, especially when you're a young child and your father passes, right? You're never going to get over it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
You're never gonna get over it. And you're always gonna need a coping mechanism, right? Even if it is that small Chunibyo thing. I understand now she's not using it as such, but it's still part of her life, right?
That's why I'm hoping it is, right? That's why I'm hoping it turned out.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And coming from that, I can see it's like that, because even for me, gout was a coping mechanism for something else. So it, you know, and it's become much more than what it was initially. So, and I think it's the same with her Chunibyo. And then that brings me on to a very important point on the story and how it kind of made me feel when watching it the second time, because I did mention I did feel slightly differently the second time around. Initially when I watched it, I didn't really care. I'll be honest with you, my father passed away in the same sort of fashion, so I didn't really think about it when watching it the first time. And then watching it now, especially, you know, I was watching it during the time that my father would have passed away around 15 years ago. But it's now looking at it now, it's like, wow, this is my story. I don't want to be that guy, right? But it got me in such a way. Like there was moments within the anime that was just snapshots of my life.
You watched it twice, then. Like I said
these
before,
characters,
it's like watching it at a young age.
Yeah, because
like when you're older, like it's just the difference.
Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, the difference could be complete. Like
exactly. Like there was moments within there. There was like, for example, the moment where when they go up to her and they said, "Oh, do you want to see your father for the last time? It's the last time you're gonna touch him." I had that moment. That was a real moment for me. And then going to the funeral and then having people that you don't know in a room just there and saying stuff like, "Oh, I'm sorry for your loss," whatever. And you don't even... And there was a line that Rikka said. She didn't realize what actually happened Do you see what I mean? She didn't realize her father passed, and that was like me. I didn't realize that, and that's why I kind of related to it in such a way, and it kind of gave me that another emotional connection. And even with characters like, with the mum, it's basically my mum, and the sister's like my sister. Like it's the same sort of thing. So it just every point just seemed to hit home really hard, and it was like shit, man.
Like with Rikka just looking out onto the beach, like in episode 12, and like, just saying goodbye to her father. Like
it was beautiful.
It was absolutely like phenomenal. Just seeing like the galactic like visuals, and just it's like she's looking. It was almost like she was looking at her father directly, and like she said everything. She with like all her heart, she like said goodbye, father. She gave herself the closure she needed, and it felt like it was bittersweet.
I'm just I cannot help but shake this little feeling here. It's just that throughout while watching the anime, right, with the portrayal of Toka, right, the older sister, right, is this like quasi antagonist and stuff, right? I just really hope that, because let's be honest, guys, this show was probably marketed towards, middle school students or high school students, right? And we know that in that phase of your life, you go through a lot of shit, right? You're uncertain. You're kind of trying to discover yourself still, right? And I just really hope that people don't misinterpret the show, because I don't want, middle schoolers and whatnot to interpret this as to come out of this show with a message that, okay, so growing up is bad. There's no reason for me to lose my imagination, blah, 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 whatever, right? And just see reality as an inherently bad thing, right? Because at the end of the day, what I took out of this, all right, was that, it's fine to have a bit of Chunibyo, right? Because as the narrator says at the end, right, humans are Chunibyo for life in a way, right? But you can't see that, you just can't treat reality is this, and growing up is a bad thing, right? Because part of growing up is, toning down these delusions and stuff, right? And I just felt that since Rikka returned to her Chunibyo self, right, in a way, that people might think that, it's hard to explain, sorry. It's just that, like, yes, Chunibyo can be important, but is it absolutely necessary, right? So when she says, for example, in episode 12, one thing that really stuck with me, right, is that Yuuta and Rikka are looking at the lights across the lake, right? And they comment on how lovely they are, right? But then I think Rikka says, oh yeah, but they're just lights from boats. And then she gets saddened by that, because she can't imagine them as anything else like her Chunibyo would, right? Because in the past she was like, oh yeah, those are the invisible lines, right? And those would captivate her, right? Make it really beautiful. Yeah, invisible boundary lines, right? But I was just sitting there thinking, like, do those lights have to be, invisible boundary lines, quote unquote, to be beautiful? Can you not see reality itself as something beautiful without Chunibyo, right?
I mean, in the end, that's kind of what they were aiming for, with the middle ground that they were trying to achieve with Rikka. It's like she acknowledged that, like, oh, there were just lights in the car, but like at the same time, she also found a way to see them as something more. And like, because like with the scene with like her father, it's like instead of just seeing them as lights, like with Yuta's help, she was able to see it as something as something like that exceeds the boundaries of the universe. It's like she basically saw the invisible boundary line that she was looking for the whole time.
Yeah, I just hope people like come out of this anime and realize that, hey, Chunibyo is cool and all that, but you don't need it. Right?
I think the big
just
thing
because...
about I think the main lesson of the anime was like it's fine to face reality and be yourself. Like it's fine to like be who you are, like act however you want, and still be able to understand like what's important and basically understand reality.
Yeah, what a delusion is and what reality is. Maybe both differentiate between the two.
Mm-hmm. Like it's like the narrator reading was like just ended it perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just because, man, sorry we spent so much time on story, but
is the most
it's just
important part of
it
this. Of this
is
show,
the most
arguably.
important part of this anime, effectively. And I think everything eventually leads back to this. You know, whether it be the characters, the music, the animations, it all leads back to the central point of story, right? So, I really want to spend time on that. But Joe, let's move on to characters now, actually, because you know we talked a whole lot about Rika and Yuuta. But there are some other side characters, right, that do, in the very least, deserve a mention. And I just want to know, like, any of them stand out to you? Other than Mako Bro, you know?
No, like negatively or positively. I was just making a little joke because, like, of course.
Oh, both.
Of
Please,
course, Makoto,
both.
Of course,
both.
Makoto stood out to me in a way.
In a good way or bad way? Actually,
It was a
'cause you
wonderful
mentioned him
way.
a lot.
It was a wonderful way at first because he kind of felt like that bro you'd have as your best friend throughout the show, but then he became a lot more like centered around comedic relief, and that like just
Did you like that or no?
No, I did not like that at all.
Oh, okay.
The changing character just didn't make any sense.
No,
to
but
me.
like, did you find that he was a better character before that change? Or?
He was, without a doubt. I loved him
Oh,
much
okay.
better before that change than after.
Honestly, dude, I gotta say that I like the change because I didn't really see. I did not find him to be like all that. Like he was, yeah, the bro character before that, and after the change, he was sort of like, you know, the comedic relief, right? But I found that him changing to a bro made him funnier, right? Because even in the first 6 episodes, he wasn't particularly special. He's kind of like this tropey, one-dimensional side character, right? That was just there for laughs. And the only thing the transition does is before his change, yeah, I didn't find him to be that interesting before. I find that the change made him more interesting, right? He just changed from one trope to a different trope. It wasn't like they made a super complex, developed and fleshed out character into a trope, in my opinion.
I guess what I'm saying is that they handled his character poorly. Like they could have maybe like not ordered it, but like just like built it in a different way. It's similar to how I felt about Nibutani.
Oh, okay. If you want to talk about, hang on.
Because there's
I've got a rant about that.
Oh
I've
my
got to fucking rant about that. I'm sorry.
I loved her character beforehand. Like I was fine with her being like handling the class president trope. I was fine with her just being her. Like I loved her personality. And then you get to like when you find out she's a Chunibyo, and then like her character just like gets destroyed. Yeah, it 180s, and like it goes from like a character who has the potential to grow to a character who like just has to deny that she's a popular Chunibyo over and over again.
When you're talking about that before, right? With Ishiki, right? And you're kind of disappointed about the transition, right? Like before and after the midpoint of the season. I feel the same way about Nibutani. Because before the whole dramatic reveal about who she actually was in like the first 2 episodes, I was like, yo, that's like best character material right there, right? And then the change, oh my god, it's not so much the change itself that was bad, but I feel that before, her relationship with Yuuta could have like blossomed into something, you know, a bit more complex and a bit more fleshed out, right? But what ended up happening, I feel, is once the big reveal happened for Nibutani, her character was basically just a trope. The only thing she really did was she fought with Takumori. That was the only thing she did until like episode 12, okay? And in episode 12, she kind of comes in...
I mean, episode 11, I think. Episode 11.
Yeah, episode 11.
Because she has that moment with Takumori. When they're hugging.
That was a good moment, right? And the moment at the end of the anime where she's like, I think that, it was Yuuta.
I mean, honestly, like outside of her like Chunibyo persona, Dekomori was a very nice character.
Well,
I mean, no, not nice in the sense that she was good. Nice in the sense that like she wasn't as like bratty. Because if like
I don't know, man. She had
like,
that she had that persona up until literally episode 12 where she finally changed. Like she did.
I know exactly. That was the only real glimpse we had. But from what I saw, it's like she didn't seem. Like
Oh
a bad
no,
person.
none of them
It's
are
just,
bad
like, her-
people. It's just the way that their development was handled was, I think, bad because like they don't change at all for 11 episodes, and then suddenly there's this huge change at the end, right? So it's like
Exactly.
I wasn't expecting that. I don't really
I mean,
care
I was
either.
fine with her being like this. I was fine with her like fine with Nibatani being timid. Like I was fine with her being like this timid individual because that's what she
Yeah,
seems like.
yeah.
Like and like, but like while she was hiding like a secret, like
I
Chunibyo
don't mind the
persona, I
change
didn't
though. That's the
want her
thing.
to just make
I
a
don't want to
whole
give people the
180.
impression that I'm mad about the change and that I wanted Nibutani to stay the way she was in episode 1 and 2. It's not the change that is a problem. It's the stuff that happened after the change. The fact that she literally does not evolve until episode 12, right? Until the conversation that she has with Yuuta.
I mean, both cases are true for me, so I mean, I don't know how to defend myself from that. Yeah, what about you, Kevin? Well, I mean, actually, before I get to you, I do want to mention my like favorite characters. Of course, it's like
Wait,
Yuuta,
guys, before we
Rikka,
continue,
like,
I want to find out what Bish thinks about Ishiki and Nibutani though, because
Ishiki, man, at the beginning, I was when I initially watched it, I was like, this guy, he's my bro, my man Ishiki. But then afterwards, after he shaved his head, it seemed like such a bro trope in anime. It's like,
no, but
I'm
yo,
doing it for
was
the
he
bros,
not a
man.
bro?
I'm doing it
Was
for
he
the
not
sake
a
of the
bro
bros.
trope before that though? He was a
He
bro
was.
trope before episode
He-
6 though.
he was.
right.
No, he was. But no,
Yeah,
I'm
he
not talking
was.
about that. I'm talking about afterwards. I didn't like him after the
But
the bro sacrifice.
Why did you like him before the bro sacrifice, but not after the bro sacrifice?
Because he was like Nagisa, you know. No, I'm joking. No, he was just, I don't know. He's such a perv, right? I like that about him. And then he became like, oh, I'm so love struck, and I got this.
He's just your average middle schooler boy, man.
no, he's the kind of guy who's just like obsessed over females, but he isn't exactly a pervert.
No, but you know what I mean. Like he's that guy, the wingman, let's say. But his main thing was like, I'm gonna join the K-On! Club. That was a reference to K-On!, by the way, when they mentioned that. I'm gonna join the K-On! Club because girls love guitars. That I found funny, and it was interesting, right? And even the whole story with him getting the love letter and all that kind of stuff, and then afterwards.
It was concurrent because he only confirms, the fact that nobody shows up only after he shaves his head, right? So it's kind of at the same time.
I know, but I'm talking about the period when the hair is growing back, and then he's like,
yeah.
oh, senpai. I don't like the senpai part. Like that just put me off. I was like, fuck you, man. Just stop. What happened to this badass guy? Like, not everyone needs to find love in this anime.
But
Yeah.
I still
Not everyone needs to
cannot
find love
get
in this
why
anime, and it's
you
like when
guys,
you force it,
just
it's not
what,
good.
What is so... No, but
It's a
what's so
forced ship.
fundamentally different between him before the change and after the change? Because
His
he's a
hair.
bro,
Look.
and then he...
It's
the
the
hair.
Are you
hair.
fucking
It's the
discriminating
hair.
against
Kevin,
bald people,
it's the
man?
hair.
Like, what's...
No, Kevin. No, Kevin, you don't understand. His hair before the haircut was so beautiful.
Okay, so Joe,
Exactly,
hang on.
Joe.
To,
You know what
to
it's about.
recap,
It's Nagisa
folks,
hairstyle.
Bish has a foot fetish and Joe has a hair fetish. Got it. All right.
What the hell's a hair fetish?
For guys, we haven't forgot. It's
For
hair
guys,
fetish
yeah,
for
What
there
does
we
it
go.
mean to have a hair fetish, Kevin? What does it mean to have a hair fetish?
No, because like you're defending your point here. Like I'm asking you, why do you like him before but not after?
That was the joke reason. No, like it's just because I liked him before.
But
I mean,
what?
here's the
How
thing,
was he
he
different
doesn't-
before? Is my question. How was he fundamentally different?
I mean, okay, so before then, he's somebody you just met. He's somebody who has your back. He's somebody
But
who
he
like,
still
has, a bit of
has
fun
the
with
guy's
you.
back though. After the if anything, the
No, that's
the
not what
sacrifice
we're saying
shows
that's
how much he
completely
has her
different. We're not
back.
saying no, Kevin. We're not saying that it isn't. We're not saying that disappears when he changes. We're saying that he maintains it, but at the same time, he also develops these characteristics that just make him a lot less likable.
But which characteristics though? Is the question.
Exactly. The senpai's character.
He's a man.
That-
It's because he's a man.
That put me off the edge.
No, like Kevin. Okay, name his role. Like name one thing that he did that was very important to the story.
I'm
after
not
he shaved his
saying
head.
my point is he's an unimportant character, all right? But I just don't understand. For me, he was an unimportant character throughout the entire anime. It's not like he suddenly fundamentally went through a change after episode 6, right? His trope changed, is my point, right? So I don't get why it's so divisive
I didn't
for
like
you
his trope
guys.
change. If that makes any sense, his trope change is what I didn't like. Because like his trope change and what he was as a character just didn't match after episode 6.
Because for me, I always justified it as, the way I saw it was, he's just the bros in love, right? He wants to smash. What could you say?
But it felt it felt forced. It's like, oh man, I'm getting all the pussy, now I want to settle down. That's what it felt like, and I was like, no. It's like Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother. Like, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get married now. No, it's not that. If it felt forced, and it was just like, oh, here's another girl that's also like, who also is pretty much irrelevant. The main reason of her being there, well, to be honest, she doesn't really get much character development in this until season 2. But my main point being is that she's only there so that they have another member.
She's only there so they have enough people. Actually, not even because even with
Yeah,
her, they
that's
don't
what
have
I'm
enough
saying.
people. The only reason that they even got the clubs because they agreed to clean up the room. So actually, she's completely useless.
She is, but that's beside the point. In terms of Nibutani, like what I thought about her, I liked Yuta's thoughts and description of Nibutani more than what Nibutani is. I know it sounds very, very one-sided and very like it is. It's an unfair thing, but I that's just my opinion. I like it more because it's very
Well, Bish, I'll say one thing to you, okay? And I think that you should heed the advice or the moral of the story of this show, and that is you should accept reality as it is and not as you want it to be. All right, that's all I'll say regarding Nibutani.
That's true. That's true. That's true, right? But at the same time, it's like my favorite part is not even her. It has nothing to do with her personality. It was like that dream that he had. Oh,
So,
you're
yep.
itchy.
Oh my god.
Basically, you just wanted her to be best girl.
I wanted her. I wanted her so hard to be best girl. And at the beginning, you thought, oh, the anime is pushing it in a certain direction. You know, he likes her, and you know he wants to have any opportunity to talk to her. And every time he talks to Rikka, he's like shunning her away and hitting on the head.
I'm sorry,
etc.
but
You know what I mean?
after the introduction of a certain other character that I won't mention yet, like I can't, like Nibutani lost her chance at becoming best girl.
Oh, it's fucking Dekamori, isn't it?
So when seeing that, the anime steers you in a certain direction, and it wants you to. I don't want to get into ships, but it wants you to feel that, hey, look, these two characters are meant to go with each other, and these are the characters that are going to have the romance. You don't necessarily think that it's going to be with Rikka initially, right? Before we get more character development on Rikka, etc. And it's just a shame. Like, she could have been much better character than she is if they given her more character development, but the story is not about her. That's just standard. Like, I accept that. The story is not about her, so they don't necessarily need to delve into the character development, but it seemed very cliche. It seemed cliche. It's like, you see it in a lot of games.
Cliche?
And
What?
The way she's acted, right? Like,
After the change?
not like after they found out that, you know, she's a Chunibyo, etc., and then it seems very cliche. It's like,
Well, either way, it would have been cliche. Well, because, like, option one is she doesn't go through the change and she is, you know, the typical lovey-dovey, super vanilla love interest. Or option B, she goes all out tsundere mode, right? And she tries to deny her past, which is effectively what we got, right? So either way, it was
like I like tsunderes, but I think this was an example of tsunderes done wrong, right? A good tsundere is Tiger from Toradora, right? Or a good tsundere is, name another good tsundere, right? There's a countless of amazing tsunderes, but she's not one of them.
Begrudgingly
She's
admit
not.
Yozora? Begrudgingly?
Yeah, okay, exactly. Yozora. I wasn't gonna mention Yozora, but still, it's like those are examples of good tsunderes, and they're good because then they don't follow. Guys, let's not go back into Haganai territory. But what I'm saying is that they don't go deep into the trope, and I've noticed this anime goes deep into tropes.
Yeah.
Like,
Anyone who's not a main character actually is kind of a trope, sadly.
he is. He's a trope of a main character. Like, we've even seen, like, he's the MC. He's the main MC, just like in Heneko. He's exactly the same. And that's what I don't like, is the fact that with their characters, it's either they're not developed or
they're developed in the exact same way that like 1,000 other main characters have been developed.
exactly. It's like, except for Rikka and Yuuta, I think they're very uniquely developed.
Now that you
their
bring it up,
conditions,
actually, I kind of had this epiphany just now. It's kind of stupid that I just had it just now, but the reason why the main characters of these light novels and stuff act the way they do and why they're so predictable is because it's kind of what we would do if you were in that situation, right? They want the main character to be this understanding, nice guy, because the readers and the viewers of these shows and light novels, they want to see themselves as that, right? So you kind of project onto that. So it's kind of unfortunate, really, right? Because the trope is meant to win the support of the reader, right, or the viewer, but unfortunately it just makes for a pretty boring character at times.
It's not a trope that translates well into anime. It works well in light novel, as you mentioned, because it's a person reading it. They're putting themselves in the story. Exactly, yeah. You're directly linked to the story, as opposed to watching the anime where you are a third-person viewer. That's effectively what you are. One thing that I did want to mention, I'm not sure if you talked about other characters, but can we go into favorites and least favorites? Or
Sure. Definitely.
like, I just want to start off with my least favorite character, who is indeed, drum roll please, guys.
I swear to God. Who is it?
It's Nibutani.
Okay, all right. I'm fine with that.
She's my least.
All right.
You know something funny, Bish?
Yes.
When I was watching this for the first time, as soon as I saw Nibatani, I'm like, this is gonna be Bish's favorite character.
Really?
Yeah, but that was before the huge change, though, right?
No, like
that was before the huge change.
Just at the very beginning, I looked at her face. I'm like, this is the kind of character that Bish is into.
All right. Well, you guessed wrong. She's least favorite character, and I think it's because of those reasons that I've mentioned, right? My favorite character.
Come on, say it.
Say
it.
Oh yeah.
Say it.
Oh yeah, maybe. It's hard to choose.
Oh come! What kind of fucking answer is that, man? Come on.
It's hard to choose. It's hard to choose because
my favorite character is hard to choose. Like, come on. You can't fucking give a drum roll for that shit. Come on, try that again. Who is it?
Yes. No, it's Rikka. But it's mainly for the reasons that I've mentioned before, because I feel that
was a Bish choice. I expected.
It's because I feel like I am Rikka that in some moments. And
so are you telling us that you are a high schooler Japanese girl with a chunibyo like complex?
That is me.
Okay.
No, it's mainly because of what I went through in my life, and I really relate to that so much. And I look after the second watching, I couldn't get away from that, and I'm like, fuck, this is me, and that's it. But before, my favorite character was I forgot her name. Before it was Dekomori. Before.
You disgust me.
Before, but she's not best girl, so
no, she really isn't.
She isn't best girl, but yeah. Joe, I want to know who your least and favorite characters are.
My favorite character was definitely Rikka.
For the same reasons as Bish's, or for different reasons?
I mean, for the most part, it's just I liked her moments. I loved her backstory. Just learning more about her. Like, she was definitely the most in-depth character out of everyone. Like, she was the character with a lot of depth, a lot of like meaning. It's like you learn so much about her. Like,
and again, she is advantaged because she like is the main character. So
my least favorite would it'd have to be Nibutani.
Okay, all right. So I think we're all in agreement that Nibutani is shit girl and in the show.
Whoa.
Because as I said, I've basically said all I need to say about Nibutani with Kevin. Like, there's not much else to say. Like, her 180 just like rubbed me the wrong way. And it was just poorly presented.
Gotta say, yeah, least favorite character is also Nibutani, obviously, as I've made evident. Not so much because of the change itself, but because of the lack of change and evolution in her character after that. I would tie her with, what's-her-face, Dekomori as well, because Dekomori was also a trope linked to Nibutani where they didn't really evolve until the very end. Honestly, again, like, I don't know about season 2. Hopefully they get fleshed out as characters in the second season. But for this season, they do change at the end for the better in episode 12. But the fact remains that they are basically tropes for 11 episodes, right? And that was just bullshit. It was frustrating to sit through. As for best character, I gotta say...
Oh, wait. Best character or favorite character? There's a difference.
Well...
Unless it's the same.
No, for best character, they have to be Ishiki because he's the bro. For favorite character, it would have to be Rika and someone else. But for Rika, firstly, I agree with you guys, but I'll have to say one thing, okay? I do have to criticize her in the sense that it's just... In a way, she kind of reminds me of Kodaka in season 2, right? I find it really frustrating because just her sociopathic tendency to deny reality, right? I get that it's part of the story, but it still rubbed me the wrong way because it was so frustrating, right? Because I've been through a similar situation, right, that she's in, but just the way that she deals with it is frustrating to me because the way she tries to deny everything, right? And she doesn't realize that, you know what? Her sister, for example, and stuff, and people around her are trying to help her, right? Like, they're doing everything they can, and they love her in their own way, right? But she paints them as antagonists, right? Of the bureau. So you can't blame her. You can't blame her for seeing it that way, right? And neither am I blaming her for seeing it that way. It's just frustrating, is what I'm trying to get at. But nonetheless, a very well fleshed out character, beautifully developed. In the last 6 episodes, anyway. Again, the first 6 episodes were kind of slow, but well done. The second favorite character would have to be Toka, honestly. Simply because I think that, like, she's not done justice in this show. Just because she's kind of portrayed as this villain, as I've said, and this trope, right? The evil older sibling.
Bear in mind, she's only represented as that trope because the anime
it's from Rika's point of view.
Showing exactly. So that's why.
Again, I'm not taking off any points of this anime just because they're portraying Toka that way. It's just I gotta say that there's more to her than the show presents, right? Because if you look into what the grandparents say and what you learn about Rika's familial situation, right? You learn that she's not a villain at all, actually, right? She does have her flaws, obviously. She does appear to be kind of uncaring a lot of the time and stuff, right? But she's doing all she can to support her sister, right? Because I believe it's stated that right after their father dies, Toka could not stay with Rika because she had to move out to work at the restaurant to support the family, right, since the father died, right? So she had to make her own sacrifices to support her sister and stuff, right? And she didn't have a say in Rika staying with her grandparents because, again, she had to leave, right? And at the end of the day, all she really wants for her sister, right, even though she's portrayed as a villain, is she wants her sister to come to terms with what has happened, right, with the fact that their father is dead, In a way, Toka does not have the same level of development as Rika, but I do think that she's a well-written one. And honestly, I doubt we'll see much of her in the future, but I think that she's well-written, and I would look forward to seeing her more in future episodes.
Like, I'm sure... Well, I mean, I'm not sure what season 2 was like, but from what we saw, like, she ended up going to Italy so she could study more culinary arts. So, like, I'm not really sure how that play out later on.
Really play out, but maybe a cameo, a shout out.
Unless,
who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, maybe a cameo. Maybe like they'll be on contact over the phone.
Yeah. Although I gotta say, best quote in the show. I actually put it under Toka's notes here. I think one of my favorite quotes in the show, right? One of the defining moments in episode 7, right, is when they're fighting, and she says, Rika's, going on and on about her whole Chunibyo stuff, and the subject her dad comes up, right? And Toka simply says, but that is reality. It's how everyone lives. It's part of growing up, right? So, I don't know, I think it's a quote that really represents her character pretty well. Do you guys have any ships or?
Oh, ships. I mean, here's the thing. I can't think of any
Yeah.
ships other than like the true OTP, like Yuuta and
Yeah.
Rikka.
Exactly.
Okay, I think we
so
can skip
yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, because if you want to present any more, like, feel free. But I mean, that was literally, in a way, that was the story itself.
There's a side ship, right?
Yeah,
the ship of
obviously
Dekomori and Rika.
Oh,
but that's a one-sided ship. That's just
okay,
Dekomori
no,
being Dekomori.
Wait, you
right?
mentioned that.
I
but you
was
don't
thinking of,
mention,
Ishiki
Makoto
and Kumin.
And Kumin.
Yeah.
Kumin.
But they don't talk, and she's sleeping half the time.
Yeah.
So it's
not,
like
it's not
it's
a
like-
real ship. It's just
it's like dating a corpse.
shit.
Just saying. That's what it is. She doesn't do anything. It's true.
Yeah.
She might as well be dead.
Yeah.
At this point.
I don't think we need to get into that.
I know it's harsh, but yeah, that's just me.
You're a horrible person.
But best
It's
girl,
true though.
lads, best girl has to be. Speaking about that, best girl's Kumin.
Wait,
Kumin?
can I do the honors
Yeah.
of being the first one?
Kumin. No, I've already said it, man.
Oh.
Yeah.
you said
I
yours?
got you.
Oh shit!
Kumin.
So hang on, but you just compared Kumin to a corpse. So are you also implying that
but-
you're into necrophilia, bitch? Or
No,
Oh my God.
Stop.
Whoa, we're
Stop.
We're learning
You guys-
so much
you guys-
about Bish
Guys,
recently.
you gotta stop this. No, Kumin is best girl, and I'll explain why. The main reasons being is because the little interaction that you have with her is just so refreshing. It's so weird. It's so quirky. It's like, why the hell was her desk just there outside in the when they're introducing, this is the napping club and this is the Rika club thing. She was just there with a desk. Why is the desk there? Why does she need the desk to sleep? It's a school desk. It's not even a regular desk. It was really.
Where else are you gonna rest her head?
I know, but I mean, she could have got a table like the rest of them, but she used a school desk. Like, she brought her desk from the classroom. It's a bit weird.
Maybe she wanted the sensation of like feeling the greens in like during school life.
And she also mentioned with the pillows, like, she has a bunch of different pillows, and I'm not sure if you've noticed it. Within the animation, she cycles through pillows, and you don't realize it.
I know she does. Yeah.
And my favorite one of her pillows is the sheep pillow. That's my favorite one. It's a pillow that's shaped like a sheep. But that's I think that's the reason why she's best girl. For those reasons, it's a very superficial reason. I could say Rika like the rest of you guys, but because I know you guys are gonna say Rika, but I don't think.
Oh,
it
how the
makes her
fuck do you know
best.
that, bud? Whoa.
Because
Watch
it's a bit. There's no. What are you gonna say? You're gonna say Dekomori?
No, I fuck
little-
Dekomori.
Are you into deco?
While I was
Decophilia. What the hell?
oh whoa.
Hashtag Decophilia.
Honestly, decophilia is worse than necrophilia in my book. Like, that's how shit Dekomori is. No offense.
Whoa.
But
Snake.
I jokingly, like, while I was watching, I jokingly said, "Oh yeah, Kumin's best girl," and the reason for that is because like I'm a simple man. Like, she likes naps, I like naps, and she doesn't have time for all the Chunibyo nonsense, right? So like, I can relate.
until the end.
Until
when
the
she
end,
be-
but
when she
that
tries,
was just a
yeah.
one-time thing though, because I'm pretty sure she gets out of it. That was just a joke.
Are you sure? Are you really so sure?
Who knows? Who knows? But
Season 2, man.
yeah, no real best girl
Open
for
to
me,
interpretation.
unfortunately.
No best girl for you?
No, it's just
I thought
it's
you were
not
gonna say Rika,
it's not a
but-
show for me where like I would think of that thing, right? Because it's one of the shows where you can't really think of any other quote unquote best girl other than the main female character, because all of the other side characters are like underdeveloped, unfortunately. It's how it is. I don't know. Who's yours, Joe? Do you have them?
Okay, you guys ready for this? All right.
The mom. It's the mom,
Best
isn't
girl?
it? Called it.
No.
Fucking
best
called
girl
it.
Best girl is Yumiha.
Who the fuck is Umiha?
Exactly. It's one of the sisters. Which one
No,
is
it's
it?
It's the child. It's like the younger sister.
And
Joe,
Joe's
Joe,
a lolly.
Joe.
Joe's a lolly.
Joe! No!
Joe's into lollies.
Joe, that's beyond love,
Confirmed.
man. What the fuck? Joe, you can
No.
No.
I'm
Joe.
playing. I'm Fish.
Yes.
I meant
Tread
to-
carefully, Joe.
First
I'm
of all,
about
that was a
to
joke.
kick you from this call, man. Like tread
First-
carefully.
First of all, I meant that as an exaggeration. I don't really think Yumiho's the best girl. I just think it was funny that like when she had those
interactions,
like,
yes,
with Toga,
yes,
like
the divorced ones. Let me see the kids every once in a while.
Oh my god. Just the end though, when the little kids are crying, right? And he's like, everyone's like, what the fuck? And she's like, oh yeah, I taught her that.
Honestly, if Yumiho was a lot more developed, she would be my favorite character.
That's too much.
She was so funny.
She is quite funny, yeah. I agree.
But my real best girl is actually Cumin.
My man.
You guys are
I'm
so.
Fish. You read my mind.
Why though? Why is she?
And
You're reading my mind.
But you would have said the same thing.
No,
Kevin.
but
You did
I just
admit it.
jokingly said that while I was watching it because it was funny, but like she doesn't deserve that status because there's literally nothing interesting about her. As you literally called her a fucking corpse, bish. Like,
Well, she is.
Well, I
but-
mean that's Bish's opinion. Like I never said she was.
no, but she does nothing but fucking nap, man. She doesn't do
Yeah,
anything.
she
like
she
that.
might as well be
makes her
dead.
So adorable. Oh my god, my heart.
So
was melting
what
every
you're
time she
saying
was
is,
sleeping.
Joe, you like watching girls sleep?
You fucking
Is that what you're
perv.
saying?
Sorry.
Joe Ecchi.
Just
You have a problem with that? Bitch?
these episodes are just eye-opening about you guys. Like,
Do you want to go, bitch?
We've learned so much about each other. I have
except
a
for
foot
me.
fetish.
It's for
Joe
me.
likes watching.
You guys don't know about me.
Yeah, but you like traps, so it's fine.
What the fuck? No, what the fuck?
It's true,
That's
man.
Tyson.
You are
That's
director of
Tyson.
traps. No,
Like
that's
something
not Tyson.
about her was just I liked her. Like I don't mean this in like a perverse way. I liked her innocence. Like I liked how like she was kind of like the one who. Like, although she didn't like her, like the stakes weren't high for her. Like she kind of like I really liked. Like she was good fun, if that makes any sense. Like she was like the character who was kind of neutral, and she was there and like made things a lot more interesting. And, like even if like a lot of times she was sleeping, like she would also make comments on these different events throughout the show, and she would be so innocent about it. And it's just like you need to stop. My heart's ready to burst.
You guys and your vanilla tastes. You disgust me.
you don't even have a best girl.
Sometimes
You're
vanilla
last one to
is the best flavor. You don't want to go with that fippy dippy shit.
Sorry.
like
Yeah,
Rocky
sometimes
Road.
vanilla-
I
can
don't
just try the
mean to
classics.
like go on a tangent here and go into Galp Umai, but can we just say that vanilla ice cream is objectively superior to chocolate ice cream? Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I completely agree with that. And that's why
Well, I mean, it
Kumin
depends
is
on the type of
completely
chocolate.
superior to all the other girls.
No,
in
she's
this
just
anime.
boring.
You fucking prove your point. Vanilla's also boring, you bitch.
Hey, Kevin, I agree with you to an extent. It depends on the type of chocolate used.
Well, you need like good French vanilla ice
Oh,
cream.
fuck you,
like
man,
vanille
no.
française,
You need
man.
the-
No, like
No,
you need
no.
that like Belgium chocolate, man.
No, we're talking about vanilla, but we're not talking about French vanilla. We're talking about Swiss vanilla.
no. What the fuck? Fuck Swiss vanilla,
Swiss.
man. No.
No. Okay, Kevin. Here's the thing. I love vanilla in most cases, but if my ice cream or any type of dessert involves Belgian chocolate, I will eat
Belgian
that.
chocolate
Yeah.
is superior to Swiss chocolate. That is a fact. That is a
did
fact.
You go to,
Let's continue.
I went to wait. Sorry. No, let's stop it right here because I went to Switzerland, and I went to Belgium, and I tried both the chocolates from master chocolatiers in both countries, and Swiss chocolate is better.
Well, maybe Bish. Have you considered that you should probably go see a fucking doctor because that's how it works, man.
Ooh.
Like.
No, it's not because you haven't gone to those countries. You didn't meet the man that made the chocolate. You didn't meet the women
Maybe
that made the
you
chocolate.
just fucking went to a bad chocolatier place in Belgium.
No, I went to the best. You're talking about you guys who use corn syrup in everything that has sugar in it. That's not real sugar.
Bish, no offense, I can't trust the
American.
opinion of a guy who A, likes Domino's pizza over Pizza Hut, and B, comes from a country where everything tastes like chicken broth.
What? Whoa! Whoa!
Can you think of any... Remember the last time you ate good British food? Yeah, me neither. Okay, just kidding. I'm kidding.
Fish and chips, okay. Yorkshire puddings.
Chicken pot pie.
Hell yeah.
Chicken pot pie is the best.
Chicken pot pie. Yeah.
If you hate chicken pot
Curry?
pie, then you should
But
just
curry
subscribe
is
to
British.
this Podcast.
Have you tried a deep fried Milky Way bar? No. Try that shit.
I've actually tried that.
Deep fried
Yes.
in batter.
Yes.
You know,
Joe, my
guys,
man.
to reel the conversation back in there, because I'm kind of responsible for this huge tangent.
Sorry.
To compare, since we're on the topic of food, right? Put briefly, I think that cumin is interesting, right? Like, let me think of a metaphor here. Like, cumin is like as interesting as cement. There you go. That's how interesting she is. Just fucking drying cement. All right, because that's all she does. She lies on the ground. She is cement. She lies on the ground and she does nothing.
Okay. Yeah, but just like cement, it's always fun to stick your hand in there. I'm sorry, guys. I just had to say that.
Yeah, so for those of you who didn't know what just happened, I basically just kicked Bish to the corner of shame in our Discord server.
Did you kick me off the server?
Yes, I
You
did.
little bitch.
You should be ashamed for that.
I thought I disconnected.
Here's the thing, guys. We use a Discord. We use like 3 different channels. We have a general channel, we have a recording channel, and then we have the corner of shame. The corner of shame is when somebody says something so like over the top that they just need to spend a few seconds.
Yeah, but you guys agree with me, right?
Just go back to that fucking corner and think about what you just said, Bish. Just think about what you just said.
No, go back to the corner of shame.
No!
I think we're abusing this.
Y'all need to stop doing this, man. I learned my lesson,
All right,
although
but,
I stand by my point.
Okay.
Fair is fair. I can respect that you guys think that Kuben is best girl.
Going on to the audiovisual component, I really want to talk about the art style. For me, there wasn't anything that was amazing about the art style. It
definitely has that KyoAni style.
It does, yeah, and it's become an expected thing. You expect the characters to look like that, right? If I shaved any of the characters' heads, they would all
be the same.
Like Keion. Yeah, all look the same, kind of like Haganai, right?
So
but
basically,
they would also look like
if you're telling me if we shaved Rika's head, she would just become Ishiki. Is that right?
No, but you know what I mean, right? No, but you know what I mean. I'm comparing it to Keion. Like the characters look so much like Keion characters. It's completely different to free characters, right? Obviously because they're men, but you know, there is a difference.
God, always
but
raving about free, aren't you?
Always free season 3. Expect that on Kun. No, I'm joking. But you can see the way that they look. Clearly it's a KyoAni style. What I really did enjoy with the animation was that I can tell that they used a lot of 3D animation within the show as well. Sometimes not the best. Like I wondered why they would use a 3D animation within a certain transition. There was this one transition that got me where they were transitioning to the balcony. And they were transitioning from the balcony into the house from the outside. And they'd done it in 3D, and I was like, why? It doesn't... of all the things you could have done in 3D, you could have enhanced the fight scenes in 3D, etc. Why did you choose that benign moment? It just doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't even remember that much 3D animation. Nothing particularly stood out to me. I was more focused on the 2D animation, and there's not much to say, but that's not a bad thing because KyoAni, they never really let you down with their art style and animation, right? Like I immediately noticed, since episode 1, I immediately wrote in my notes, art style is superb, right? It's what you come to expect of KyoAni, really. Lots of very popping colors, very sharp, thin, clearly defined lines. So it was beautiful art style. The animation was, the art style was great. Animation was decent. Nothing. It's not Attack on Titan,
Yeah. No. Yeah.
But,
or Tempest.
Yeah. But let's talk about the opening and ending actually, because when people talk about, for me anyways, when people talk about Chunibyo, they often bring up the opening and endings, and I don't know what you guys think of them.
The opening was... I didn't like the opening. I'm just going to put it out there right now.
I agree.
The opening didn't do anything for me. The ending was very good, though.
I gotta... for me, it's kind of the opposite. Like, I'll make it clear right now. Neither the opening or ending were particularly memorable to me, but I like the opening.
The visuals, no?
The ending, I noted it was pretty nice because it had some beautiful animation, just like the rest of the show. And the opening I particularly noted just because of just the way they presented each character. I don't know why. It's not
So
amazing.
they zoomed in on tits and ass.
No.
For the whole. I
Oh my
noticed that
God.
though. That
No,
there
it's
was
just,
one
you know,
point
you
where
know-
it was
you
just
know-
ass shaking.
Oh yeah, that was
That's a
weird.
bit weird.
I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about like when they go through all the characters, right? And it's like there's this
Oh, okay.
rapid series of cuts, right? So like I'm thinking of Nibutani's part of the intro where it's like she's like jumping, right? And it's just like rapid flashes, and she transitions from the left to the right side of the screen, and it matches the beat in the music, right? So it's fun. It's not an amazing opening for sure. It's not very memorable, but it's all right. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I think what stuck out, the soundtrack itself stuck out to me more than
Yeah.
the opening and ending. To be
What you guys
honest,
think of that?
I'll be honest with you. There was a lot of, particularly within the soundtrack of the first arc. It had that Haganai vibe. You know that particular song, Kevin. You know that one in Haganai that they keep on repeating. I was like, is that the same song? But then I realized it isn't. But it had that Haganai vibe with a lot of the first 6 episodes. Yeah, it was like that repeating song that you would hear when something exciting would happen. You were like, fuck yeah. But then towards the dramatic moments, there was moments where you didn't even have music at all. And I think that's when it hit home. Like, particularly with the Dekamori moment. At the beginning, there was no music until, she broke. Do you see what I mean? And it's like, it's the timing of the music as well also plays an important part. And I think that was incredibly well executed, personally.
I do agree with you, Bish. Although I will admit that there were times where for example, when the episode ended on a very serious note, there was no need to include the ending song for that because it just destroyed the tension. And then when you start the next episode with that cheery music, and then you go back to that serious moment, it just doesn't feel the same.
Well, I don't kind of agree. I don't know how they would resolve that, right? Because it's a 12 episode anime.
Okay, I don't want to compare it to other anime, but
Sure.
Persona 4 the animation did something like that, where it's it omitted the opening, so we could go right back into where the last episode went off, and that made the scenario feel.
We're talking about the
emotional.
Nanako scenario. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. Although I don't want to say anymore because spoiler reasons. But yeah, it's that scenario because it picked up right where the last episode went off, and it felt seamless. There wasn't any interruption in between, which I liked a lot. So I was hoping something like that would make itself apparent in this show as well. We get the logo card, and then we just move on. So
For me, I don't know. I'm kind of between you guys because I don't think on one hand I don't think it's Blast of Tempests, but I do think it does definitely stand above your average show, right? It's nothing I would download, but I do remember this one track. I don't remember how it goes, but I do remember that it was a piano track. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Which moment was it in?
It was
then
in
I might remember.
it was in all of the super tragic and dramatic moments.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So it wasn't memorable enough for me to remember how it went, but it was memorable enough for me to remember that, hey, there's this piano track that stuck out, right? So it complements the tragic scenes really well, the comedic moments. For those it fits well, I guess, but it's not outstanding, right? But it's not bombastic enough, emotional enough for me to remember it, to download it, unfortunately.
The ironic thing is, considering this is a Kyoto Animation show, I would have expected the music to be on another level, right? Because we've seen K-On! Music was great in K-On! Music was also great in the first season of Free, not the second. But, and in other shows like that, I'm a bit shocked as to why Kyoto Animation didn't put more effort into the music, right? As you mentioned, it wasn't memorable. It wasn't like a track from K-On! Or that dubstep track from Free.
I don't think EDM would work with a show like this.
No, just fucking imagine, Rikka, your father died. Drop the beat. You know, like, just it just wouldn't work. But I don't know. It's pretty good, in my opinion. Not outstanding, but that's not like I'm not holding that against it.
Yeah, it's not like it's completely unoriginal.
Yeah. It does have its merits. But how about voice acting? Because I know Joe already mentioned before that, you know, I think we can all be in agreement that they do a pretty solid job, right? Like, especially for Dekamori, for Rikka, right? And just getting the emotions out there, right? Pretty good. That's all I have to say. I'm happy with the voice acting. No one really seemed off to me.
In terms of the voice acting, I completely agree with you. It wasn't necessarily noteworthy. It hit the points it needed to hit within the animation.
It's not necessarily noteworthy.
That's my opinion.
Fish,
like,
do you want me to kill you?
No, I think Bish is trying to say that it's good, but it's not outstanding.
yeah, it's not something that would win an Oscar.
I don't think any anime would win an Oscar. I mean, fucking Your Name didn't get an Oscar, but no, that's
whoa!
No,
But you know what I mean.
Bish, I have one thing to say to you. Do you want to die?
Joe, you gotta stop this Danganronpa V3. All right.
The Bish, you know me too well to know that I will never stop.
Alright. But overall, do you guys have any final thoughts on the sound design, on the audiovisual aspect of the show, or have we covered everything?
I guess I have to say I really like the vibrancy of vibrancies. I don't know if that vibrancy is a word, but I just like
it is
how
now.
I liked how vibrant the animation was. Like, you saw, like, although it may not have been the greatest at times, like, although you could kind of tell it was suffering from like that simulcast syndrome. It also, like, you could see like the different like emotions that each character felt. Like,
Although,
like, you could see
I would like to
movements,
ask you,
could
what
see...
is simulcast syndrome? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, I mean, that's a term I literally just made up. I'm basically referring to just like how, like, when, like, before the DVD and Blu-ray releases, like, the animation might not be as great.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, when
does it
like,
really change though in the DVD? Because I mean, they're taking what they aired.
I'm not really sure. Well, I mean, that's just my assumption.
Okay.
Like, I'm not really sure if there's much of a difference. I'm just saying, like,
It's your impression.
What I'm basically saying is that the animation, even if the animation like may have like not been the greatest quality at some moments, like specifically when like characters are really far, I really liked how they were very, like, they expressed themselves a lot through their motions in the animation. It's like you instead of this like these stiff characters, you saw them like moving like all over the place. You saw them like tripping a couple times. Like there are like variations in their like animation.
Well, you gotta say that. You know, I gotta take back what I said earlier. The animation isn't completely unnotable, because now you think about it, the scenes where there's a lot of emotions. Right, I'm going back again to the Dekamori scene. The reason why it works so well, right, and you're able to empathize with the characters so well, is because, not just because of the voice acting, right, but it's a combination of the animation as well. Because I'm just remembering the way it was animated, right, especially like them crying and the emotions that they have during those scenes are really well done, right. So just the animation for that really boosted the emotional impact of the voice actors. And I think that if you had, you could have the best voice acting in the world, but if you had shitty animation to go along with it, it would have completely ruined the moment, right? Which was not the case here. So the animation in general was all right, but I think it stood out particularly in those emotional scenes when they animated the characters' faces, right?
Yeah, you can definitely rely on Kyoto to find that middle ground.
Moving on from that, though, I think it's time to wrap up with our gripes and grumbles and, overall thoughts, both positive and negative. Who wants to start?
My real gripe was, as far as, like, visuals and audio concerned, like, as I mentioned before, with the animation and how it may have, like, seemed a little, like, odd at times. It's like when, like, for example, like it's usually kind of difficult to draw characters from a distance and make them look as great as they can. It's like I saw those moments a lot when like the artists may have had some difficulty like just making them look better from a distance, but at the same time, since this was like done as a simulcast, it probably looks a little better in the DVD/Blu-ray. Well, what about you, Bish? I know you like haven't really said much. Like, I'm wondering what your gripes and grumbles were about like the show in general, maybe some specific parts like audio and visual components, etc.
My main issue, and I think it's already been mentioned, we've already mentioned it in the beginning, kind of, is about the pacing of the show, right? It's something I don't really want to go into anymore, but more so in terms of the gripes and grumbles, I just want to talk about what I like about the anime and why I kind of suggested it to you guys instead, right? This was an anime that I suggested and I put it on the list mainly because it was one of my first anime, and I always like enjoying showing you guys new animes and showing you guys anime that is different from what we've covered. Because initially when I suggested it, it was like, hey, look, I want to cover more romance shows, blah, blah, blah. But it's not just the romance. It has a meaning behind it, and I think many people are going to enjoy it. Give it a try, guys. I think for anyone that is new to anime, I would say this is a great... It does have its flaws, right? No doubt about it, but you're going to be less...
are sort of needed so that it becomes an entry point.
I think so, yes, because you're not going to necessarily realize if you're watching it for the first time. You're not going to necessarily realize that this anime is like, oh, there's got problems with pacing and stuff, especially if you're new to anime. But at the same time, you can always go back and look back at it just as I did, and then say, hey, look, it did have these problems, but this was what was good with it, etc. And I think it is good to learn. This is an anime to learn from, which I find is always great. And because the reason we started Kunai was that we learn from anime and we learn from each other's and we have experience in each other's different genres.
And come to think of it, on top of the the tags you usually see associated with the show, like people call it a drama, people call it a comedy or a rom-com. It is both. It's a bit of all three actually, but I'd also say that above all, I would say that the two most prominent genres would be drama, but also coming of age. It's most at its core is definitely a coming of age show, right? It's about these characters in high school who are coming to terms with this new reality that they're facing, right? Kind of discovering themselves and their family. And again, I'd have to reiterate what Bish said. My biggest issue with this show is also the pacing, with a bit of the poor side characters is my second gripe, right? It's not terrible overall. I still enjoy the anime more than the positives do outweigh the negatives. But it's just that like I said before, Chunibyo is a tragedy wearing the mask of a lighthearted comedy, right? But ultimately, it fails to be a great comedy, and it fails to be a memorable tragedy until the end, because it balances these two aspects, comedy and tragedy, poorly. And its character development all throughout the first act it's lacking. All right, so when the knife to the gut finally does come around in the second act to prevent you from falling asleep, right, you don't care as much about the characters as you could, right? For me, the saving grace of this show really comes in not only the second act, but specifically the last 2 to 3 episodes. That's when it truly shines. But I just wish that it were paced better, right? The last 2 episodes show us just how good the story is, right? And how much you can come to care about the characters. It's just you don't see any of that magic in the first whole 6 episodes, right? Like, there's too much of a disconnect between the first half and second half, right? They're almost entirely different shows. And again, if I say this a lot, but if I weren't watching this for Kunai, all right, I don't know if I'd necessarily have the motivation to watch through the first 6 episodes, right? Because with the first 6 episodes, you have the feeling that, oh, okay, the last 12 are going to be more of the same, right? You're not going to expect a radical change, like what happened.
Well, I guess that's what makes these shows really good. It's just like that huge twist.
Yeah, it's good, but I just wish that, from the get-go, it could have been paced a bit better, right? unfortunately, it's just a common theme among a lot of shows is they kind of botch the introductory arc, right? Or you're introducing new characters, but at the same time, it's important to continue to develop main characters, I find, right? And once the main characters developed, to not just focus on the main characters, but also flesh out the side characters a bit more. You know, it's a bit difficult, admittedly, to do in 12 episodes, but just I think that they could have balanced it, you know, a bit better than they did. You know, overall, still a great show. As for people I'd recommend it to, I don't know if I'd recommend this to people getting into the genre or into anime in general, because again, the first 6 episodes might put them off just because of the pacing.
Well, I mean, at the same time, it's like with if it's like their first type of show, it's probably something that would really put them off.
Yeah, you don't
Like,
want
it's
that
like
to happen, right? You want it to be something that, you know.
Right, but like I don't really think it put them off because like it's like a new concept to them if they're like a beginner. It's like they don't really know what it means to be put off by
Exactly.
like an anime trope.
Yeah, I completely agree with
The problem is, guys, the first 6 episodes, right, is really slice of life, and it was focusing on like more so the comedic aspect of the show, right? And honestly, it's kind of cringy. Intentionally, it's supposed to be cringy because, you know, it's supposed to remind you of, you know, your Chunibyo phase, right? Because everyone has that. But if you're someone who's never watched anime, right, you might not necessarily have the same connection to this concept of, you know, what Chunibyo is and all that, right? So there's not this connection to drag you in, and you might think that, you know, instead of it being funny, you're just looking at this anime like, oh, it's just super fucking weird about these like social outcasts.
Well, I disagree with that. I honestly disagree with that because I came in watching this anime without much prior knowledge of what anime is, right?
Yeah, but it's not your first anime, is it? Right? I'm not saying that.
No, it wasn't necessarily my first anime, but it was like my third or something.
That's my point. By that time, you all got some sort of feel. I wouldn't like try to introduce someone to the genre with this show.
No, I still disagree, right? Because that was my first introduction to Chunibyo. I didn't know what the hell a Chunibyo was before that. I couldn't even pronounce the word.
Aside from my point, my point is just because it relies on some sort of like the connection that tries to establish with you in the first few episodes relies on you having at least some form of knowledge of it, of, you know, the culture. And
no, it's not necessarily that, because everyone can look back at their you know, high school or elementary school lives and cringe, and that's effectively what they're doing, and that's where it's relatable. Even if you don't have any knowledge of that culture, you can still relate to it, even in some very odd way. You can still do it, because that's what I did.
No, I disagree.
That's my point.
Let's just continue. Gotta think of Joe. Who would you recommend this anime to? Would you agree with Bish?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of in the same, but yeah, I pretty much agree with Bish. It seems like the kind of show that's like, it's like if you're new to anime and haven't really seen, like if you want like something that could give you, that could be like a bit of a psychological like experience, as well as just good fun, like slice of life, like just like it's kind of like it has the best of both.
I don't know if I'd agree with that.
Well, I mean, maybe best of both.
I think that's a bit strong.
Too much.
Yeah.
It'd be more like it has like some interesting like bits from each genre that you can kind of ease your way into. And then if you want
with regards to that, yeah, I can see your point. You know, it does combine multiple different genres that you see.
And I think the best thing about it is because it does do that, you're more likely to focus on what you like, right? Because when I watched this anime for the first time, I saw this and I was like, you know what? I want to watch more romance dramas, for example. That's the direction that I wanted to jump in. Someone else might think, oh, okay, cool. I like the first 6 episodes, so I'm going to watch more romantic comedies, or I'm going to watch more slice of life stuff. I might go and watch K-On! For example. It's very broad, and so it kind of allows people to choose more genres that they might be interested in, even though they thought, okay, this wasn't the best anime, but maybe I might go in and jump in on the comedy genre, for example.
Okay. Fair point. Although I would like to add one last thing to recommendations, actually. And that's simply, I would recommend this show to people who have watched and liked Henoko, because again, I'm going back to this because just there are a lot of similarities between these two series, I find, right? Just in the general layout, right? In that both are dramas and like comedies, right? And just the way the story progresses, right? The tragic mixed in with at the very end with the first two episodes being comedy, right? So if you liked Henoko, then I would definitely recommend this show for you.
I completely agree with that, to be honest.
I haven't seen Henoko, so
you should.
You need to watch it.
And
It's part of
Yeah.
Kunai history,
And
man. You need to watch it.
inversely here, if you liked Chunibyo, I would recommend Henoko, which we covered, by the way, in our very first episode. So if you want to cringe at me, then definitely go check that out. I know I won't. Oh, last thing. There is a second season, so there's no point in wondering, would you guys want a second season to be produced? But like, do you guys want to see? Yeah, food for thought. Do you guys want to see the second season?
I'll be honest with you. I've seen second season, but I'm gonna say this as if I originally watched it. I felt that the anime ended in a way that I don't need a second season.
Yeah.
And that's very rare for anime, for me particularly. It's not like I didn't want a second season, but I felt like, hey, look, this was an ending that I'm okay with. I don't need a second season.
I feel the same way. I found that they tied up like a lot of the loose ends, right? The like honestly, Yuuta and Rikka's relationship and their evolution has the knot has been knotted, really, in the sense that she's come to terms with her father's death. She's gotten rid of the more dangerous side of her Chunibyo personality, and she's come to accept Chunibyo in a different way, right? In a positive way. And honestly, the only reason why I'd want to watch a second season is just to see if those poor side characters finally get some justice in the second season.
I don't want to spoil it for you, but the side characters in second season get so much justice. Like, it's unbelievable. But the one issue that I have when originally watching it was that I didn't necessarily want a second season because I feared where could they go from there.
So you went in with a bias of sorts?
Not necessarily a bias. I just felt that specifically watching the first season, finishing it, I thought, okay, if they were to do a second season, how would they do it? Because look, there's no drama. There's no drama for them to resolve. It would be very petty. It would be very like, I don't want to. It could devolve. The anime could devolve from the point of its heightness. Like it could go down into a romantic comedy route, or it can go down into like more irrelevant issues. In terms like, oh, he's seeing another girl, etc. They could go down that route, or they could go down the route of just slice of life, K-On! Style. And either way, if you're not maintaining that drama that you had in the first season, which is very difficult to do in the second season, especially the fact that they've resolved it. If they didn't resolve it, then I would have said, hell yeah, man, second season, okay. I would love to watch that. But because they've resolved it,
okay. So there's that
when initially watching it,
there's that uncertainty for you going to
exactly. But I've seen second season, but I'm not going to comment
now.
on it.
Actually, just feel free to shut me down, okay? But I know that we usually don't ask this on Kunai, but since you're kind of like Bish from the future, from our perspective, since you've seen the second season, now that you've seen it, would you recommend that we go see it, or do you think that it's better to stay with the first season?
I am not going to recommend it for Kunai. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, I think that's been quite an interesting episode of Kunai, I think, for this time.
It's definitely one of the more thought-provoking episodes.
It is indeed, yeah. I'd just like to end this episode before we get into our Twitter handles and things like that. Big shout out and big thanks to our sponsors for this episode. First one being Crunchyroll.com. Remember, you can watch this anime on Crunchyroll. If you go to crunchyroll.com/kunai, you can get your 14-day free trial, ad-free 1080p anime. For everything anime, check out Crunchyroll. Also, be sure to support us by checking out our second sponsor, which is Loot Crate. Remember, you can go to lootcrate.com/kunai and use the code kunai at checkout for 10% off your first subscription to Loot Anime. And believe me, You won't regret it. So yeah, I think that's been it. Kevin?
Oh, yes. Almost forgot about that, actually. It was so concentrated on the discussion here. But you guys are in for a treat next time, because on the next episode of Kunai, we will be covering none other than Black Lagoon. And fret not, we will be covering both the dub and the sub. All right? I know that there are fans out there who really, really are adamant of one or the other. So fret not, that will be discussed.
Wait, we're covering to sub as well?
Oh, you'll see how we'll do it.
Oh man, that's Kevin's gonna take me on a wild ride.
For those of you who aren't familiar with Black Lagoon, by the way, let's just say that if Quentin Tarantino ever became an anime producer, this is the show that he would make. So
that, and know that like the dub is like panty stocking garter belt.
It is
like levels.
It is
fantastic.
fantastic. Yeah, but don't discredit the sub. We will be covering both, and
of course not. The Japanese voice actors have to get credit where it's due.
Definitely. But guys, if you want to give us feedback, then please leave us a review on iTunes or Google Play as well. Alternatively, you can also send us an email at galp.pa@gmail.com, or you can contact us on Twitter. We have a Twitter page at galpkunai, and there's also our personal Twitter pages in case you want to go, share your thoughts on, why Nubitani isn't worst girl on the show, or, Domino's is better than Pizza Hut or whatnot,
Domino's best girl, man. Come on.
For those of you who want to do that, Bish, why don't you start?
So my Twitter page is at Get a Life Podcast.
For me, it's at Tolvray. It is TOLVRAIE.
And my Twitter handle is at KiboGamer, spelled KIBOUGAMER.
All right, guys. Well, looking forward to Black Lagoon, and honestly, thank you for listening, and thank you, Bish and Joe, because this was it was a loaded discussion, and thank you guys especially for listening in. I hope.
Mamma mia, that's a spicy meatball.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah,
right.
guys.
See you guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Shall we just plunge right in?
Basically, this anime is about a girl called Rikka and a boy called Yuuta, and they love each other very much. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to go through that. Okay. All right, Joe. All right, Joe.
Well, Bish, kind of sorry for you, because you wanted to start first, but
yeah, fuck you guys, man. I don't.
Secretly. Oh God.
No, but
oh God.
But seriously, guys.